It's a tradition in this church and many Unitarian Universalist congregations to do this ritual called the flower ceremony. And due to COVID, we have not had one the past 2 years. So it's been, what, that would be 3 years? 3 years. So today we get to restore this ritual to its annual place. This ritual could not be simpler. You bring a flower and you take someone else's flower. But what makes the ritual really special is to tell the story of how it originated. And I think this is a story that's very worth hearing over and over once a year. In the city of Prague, the land now known as the Czech Republic, in the year 1923, we're coming up next year on the 100th anniversary of the flower ceremony. In Prague, there was a Unitarian church. But the building didn't look much like a church. It did not have bells or steeples or stained glass windows. It didn't have an organ to make beautiful music. It didn't even have a piano, much less a band. There was nothing fancy about this church. It had no candles or chalices, and on regular Sundays, it had no flowers. But the church did have some things. It had 4 walls, a ceiling, and a floor. It had a door and a few windows. It had some wooden chairs, chairs without the nice little cushioning on the bottom and the back. But that was really it. The church was plain and simple. And the church also had people who came to it every Sunday. It had a minister, and his name was Norbert Čapek. This is a very important name, so I want you to say it with me 3 times. Norbert Čapek. Norbert Čapek. Norbert Čapek. All right, good. Now he's in your mind now. He's a very special person. He was the minister at this plain and simple church in Prague. Only had been there 2 years when he was known. He'd come to church, he'd spoke to his people, and they listened. They sat quietly in the quiet sanctuary, sitting on their uncomfortable wooden chairs. And when he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit amongst themselves, and then they went home. And that was all. They didn't have the music, the candles, even food after service. Definitely no coffee, can you imagine? But springtime came to Prague, and Reverend Norbert Čapek went out for a stroll. The rain had come, the birds were singing, and the flowers were blooming all over the land. He saw that the world was indeed beautiful. Then an idea came to him, simple and clear, plain as day. The next Sunday, he asked all the people in the church to bring a flower or a budding branch or even a twig, if that's all they could find, and each person was to bring one. His congregation asked, well, what kind? What color? What size? He said, you choose. Each of you choose what you like. And so on the next Sunday, which happened to be the first day of summer, the people came with flowers of all different sizes and colors and shapes. There were yellow daisies, red roses, there were white lilies and blue asters, dark-eyed pansies, and light green leaves. Pink and purple, orange and gold. There were all those colors and more. Flowers filled all the vases, and the church wasn't so plain and simple anymore. Reverend Čapek spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. These flowers, he said, are like ourselves, different colors, different shapes, different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important and special in its own way. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit amongst themselves, and then they each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home. And that was all. And it was beautiful, plain, and simple as the day. This is the story we tell of flower ceremony year after year, because only the most important stories should be told over and over again. So now it's time to choose our flowers. I would like to invite the children up and anyone who might need a little bit more time to come up and so now that we all have our flowers, During the first flower ceremony in 1923, Reverend Chopik presented the following words as a blessing for the flowers. So if you would like to hold your flower up or out and contemplate it, that would be perfectly fine. All human beings are created in the name of joy and happiness, but thousands of troubles surround us, tormenting us with sadness. If a person cannot see beauty in the world around them, then troubles and sadness tie them down. The beauty of the clouds floating in the sky, the beauty of the spring rain, the beauty of flowers, the beauty of friendship and love. May people see that beauty. May true humanity spread out in human hearts. May we all get our daily bread. May people forgive each other and their trespasses and not bring each other into temptation through hatred. May peace spread out across all the earth. Amen. Now you might be aware that there is more to the story of Reverend Chopik, a sad but inspiring story. In 1939, when Prague was under Nazi occupation, the American Unitarians offered Reverend Chopik a minister's job in the United States where it was safer. Reverend Chopik replied that he would not desert his people and that he would remain in Prague. Never one to shrink from a crisis, the Reverend preached against the Nazi occupation. He was regularly questioned by the Gestapo, who demanded that he not speak against the Nazis. So for a while, the Reverend stopped speaking against them on Sunday mornings, but he still continued to work against the occupation by forming a resistance committee which met at the church and helped Czechs escape the country. But finally, in the spring of 1941, the Reverend declared, "I can bear it no longer. I must speak the truth and not be a coward." He used his Sunday morning sermon to contradict a speech that Hitler had just given. 5 days later, the Gestapo came to his home and sent him to prison at Dachau. In prison, Reverend Chopik kept his fellow inmates' spirits up with humor, caring, and cheerfulness. But as he was now more than 70 years old and unable to work, he was quickly transported with other older prisoners to the part of the camp where medical experiments were being conducted on prisoners. After 4 months in Dachau, Reverend Chopik died in October 1942. Reverend Chopik's life still lives on in Unitarian Universalism through the flower ceremony, where our flowers represent beauty, simplicity, and holding the strength of our convictions.